My dad took this beautiful photo of a three-point buck through the front window of his dining room. Unfortunately, the front part of the entire photo was way too dark, so he asked me to Photoshop it to lighten it up so you could see the deer better. The first thing I did was I drew a rectangular marquee around the deer, and I copied it, and then I pasted it into the layer above the original photo. I then hid the original photo by clicking the little eye next to it and just worked in the top layer. Now in the Adobe Modern Creative Cloud, you can usually do select subject, but a lot of times that doesn't work, especially if the color in the background and the color in the entire head of the deer are basically the same. So I used the quick selection tool a little bit. I found that was difficult, so I moved to the magic wand tool and found that that was also selecting too much. So what I'm doing now is called curves. Click image, adjustments, and curves and play around with it until you get enough contrast between the deer and the background. As you can see, part of it is overexposed, and for now that's okay. I'm going to click OK, and now I'm going to use a combination of quick selection and magic wand tool to eliminate the background. There's going to be certain areas that if I use the quick selection, it's going to end up selecting too much. What I can do is I can take advantage of the parts that are selected correctly and go into those areas specifically with an eraser, and just use the eraser to take those areas. For instance, at one point the antlers got selected, but also parts of the head and the ear that I didn't want selected. But the parts that were selected correctly, I could go in and I could erase the background around them simply with the eraser. So I'm going to just go through and get as much of the extra stuff that isn't the deer out of the way as much as possible. I see how I'm erasing, and I'm taking advantage of the selected areas to be able to do a very clean erase around the antlers. But I'm not going to get everything, and that's okay, because eventually I'm going to unhide the bottom layer, and I'm going to create a composite of what's on top and what's on the bottom so I can get the best aspects of both. So I'm just going to go through cleaning this up. When I'm done, I'm going to unhide the bottom layer, and I'm going to go into the bottom right hand corner, and I'm going to click on this little icon here and create what's called an adjustment layer. Now with an adjustment layer, use the colors black and white and the brush tool. Black means you're erasing, and white means that you are putting back what you erased. But you don't work directly on the photograph, you work in the adjustment layer. So you always click on that little white area, and anything you want to erase or get rid of, you just use the black brush tool and it will erase it from the top layer, revealing what is hidden underneath on the bottom layer. And if you accidentally erase too much, you can just switch colors from black to white, and you're going to paint with the white color and it will pull back what you lost. So you're never ever working on the photograph itself, you are just working on the adjustment layer. Now this only works for drawing and erasing. If you want to do something else, like for instance at a certain point I wanted to do some burning and dodging to adjust the color a little bit more, I then had to click, instead of on the adjustment layer, on the actual top photograph itself. The brilliant part about this method is that it's non-destructive. You never mess up your original photograph, because remember, I took my original photograph and I made a copy of it and put it in the layer above. And then after adjusting that, I made an adjustment layer and made further adjustments. So the bottom layer, my dad's original photograph, was never ever touched or messed with. Now I want to show you how to use the burn and dodge tools. If you look at the coat where the sunlight is on the deer, you'll see it's too light. So I'm going to click on the burn tool, which is that little hand kind of gripping, and that, if I click on that tool, will make whatever area I paint over darker. You can usually find it under the hidden tools. If you look There's like 3 dots on the left. If you click on those 3 dots, you'll find hidden tools in the toolbar. You also have to adjust the paintbrush on the burn tool so that it's got a fuzzy edge. You don't want it to have too sharp an edge, because otherwise your deer will look scribbled on. And then I'm just going to click on the mouse and scribble over the areas that I want to be a little bit darker. The dodge tool does the exact opposite of the burn tool. It looks like a little lollipop or wand, and I can use that to lighten areas that I feel are too dark. So I'm going back into the shadows on the deer's face and shoulders, and I'm lightening them. And I'm just about done with my picture. Right now what I'm doing is I'm adjusting the opacity of the top layer to see how much of the bottom layer I want to show through. I think I ended up at about 80 or 85% opacity. So a lot of the original photograph shows through, which makes all my adjustments even subtler. And the trick is when you're erasing, there's how the original looked, and now here's how the new picture looks. And now I'm going to save it. But when you're erasing, you use the black and the white brush tool in the adjustment layer. When you're burning and dodging, you click over to the photograph to do that part. So the only part that works in the adjustment layer is the erasing and the drawing in. But I'm just making a few subtle adjustments right at the very end. I'm trying to get I'm right now using the dodge tool to make everything look a little bit more visible. You don't want to overdo it. And finally, I decided I was going to do some more erasing at going up the legs, just so that the deer looked like he was actually in the grass. Otherwise, he would have looked like he was floating over the grass. Anyway, here's the finished product. It took me about 15 minutes overall to do this. This is the Helpful Art Teacher showing you Photo Editing 101.